Gina had always heard people say, "Things can turn around in a day," but she never imagined those words would ever apply to her. Life had thrown her blow after blow, too heavy for someone her age, yet somehow she kept walking. So before we go any further, sit tight, grab your popcorn and settle in, because what happens next is the kind of twist no one, not even Gina herself, could have seen coming. This is the moment her story takes a turn so sharp it could make a movie director jealous. The school gates clanked shut behind her, sealing away the future she had dreamed about for years. She held her worn notebooks close to her chest as she walked, each step weighted with disappointment. The head teacher's voice still echoed in her ears. "Without fees, we cannot keep you enrolled." Final. Unforgiving. Her father didn't know yet. The thought tightened her chest. With his health declining and money nearly non-existent, he already carried enough burdens for 3 lifetimes. If she told him she had been dropped from school, he would blame himself, and that was something Gina couldn't bear. She blinked away the tears that threatened to spill. Crying wouldn't fix anything. She had long mastered the art of swallowing her pain, keeping her shoulders straight even when her world tilted. Trying to collect herself, she stepped into the supermarket near the bus stop. The cool blast of air conditioning brushed her skin, momentarily easing the heaviness inside her. She drifted through the aisles, pretending to browse. She touched items she couldn't afford, wishing life were as simple as picking something off a shelf. Then came the sudden crash, metallic, loud, slicing through the quiet hum of the store. A basket had overturned, its contents rolling across the floor. An elderly man stood over the mess, looking mildly embarrassed. "Oh, let me help you," Gina said instinctively, bending down to gather the scattered cans. The man's eyes softened. "Thank you, young lady." Most people would have stepped over them. Gina shrugged lightly. "It's all right." He watched her for a moment, really watched her, as if he could see the storm hiding behind her calm face. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked gently. Her breath caught. No one had asked her that sincerely in a long time. It's just been a rough day," she murmured. "Come," he said, nodding toward the small cafe inside the store. "Join me for a moment. If you're comfortable." Gina hesitated, then followed. Little did she know, this simple act of kindness was about to rewrite her entire destiny. The cafe corner of the supermarket was small and quiet. 2 tables, a humming refrigerator filled with bottled drinks, and the rich smell of freshly brewed coffee. Gina sat across from the elderly man. Her palms wrapped around a cup of warm tea he insisted on buying for her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. She focused on the rising steam, unsure how much of her story to share with a man she had just met. Yet something about him, his gentle posture, the deep calm in his silver-gray eyes, made her feel strangely safe. "My name is Jonathan," he said finally, offering a small smile. "And you, young lady?" "Gina," she replied softly. "A beautiful name," he said. "So, Gina, what made today so heavy for you?" She looked down at her hands. Part of her wanted to say, "Nothing, I'm fine." But the words wouldn't come. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe loneliness, or maybe the weight she had been carrying needed to be set down, even if just for a moment. "I got dropped from school," she whispered. "Fees. My dad can't pay them, and my mum, she passed away. He's sick a lot, so things are just hard." Jonathan listened without interrupting, nodding slowly. "That's a lot for someone your age to hold." Gina swallowed. "I try to manage. But today just broke something." Silence settled between them again, but this time it felt different. Softer, less suffocating. Jonathan tapped his fingers lightly on the table. "You remind me of my granddaughter," he said. "Strong-willed. Kind heart. Never gives up, but sometimes forgets she doesn't have to fight alone." Gina looked up, surprised by the warmth in his voice. Then Jonathan reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a simple business card. He placed it gently in front of her. "My dear, I don't believe in coincidences," he said. "I believe we cross paths with certain people for a reason. I've spent years building a foundation that helps young people get an education, especially those who have the heart but not the means. Gina froze. Her heartbeat stuttered. I'd like to help you, Jonathan continued. Not just with school fees, but with mentorship, support, whatever you need to build the future you deserve. Her breath trembled. Why me? She whispered. Because you stopped to help a stranger with a spilled basket, he replied. Character matters more than anything. Gina stared at the card again. This moment, quiet, unexpected, unreal, felt like the beginning of something bigger than she had dared to hope for. And deep down, a small spark flickered back to life. Oh. Gina held Jonathan's business card as though it were a fragile piece of glass. The supermarket cafe felt suddenly too small, too bright, too unreal. She had walked in with nothing but disappointment weighing her down, and now she was staring at a lifeline she never expected. Take your time, Jonathan said softly, sensing her overwhelm. I don't want to pressure you. I simply want you to know the opportunity is real. Gina nodded, still barely breathing. It's just, things like this don't happen to people like me. His smile deepened. That's exactly why I want them to. He sipped his tea, giving her space. Gina's fingers traced the embossed lettering on the card. Hale Foundation. Educational support, scholarships, mentorship. She had heard the name before, mentioned once by her school counselor, reserved for exceptional students she didn't believe she qualified as. Why education? Gina asked quietly. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, eyes softening in memory. Because someone once sponsored me when I was your age. I was a dropout too, you know. Lost, angry, convinced life had chosen the wrong person for success. He chuckled. But one person believed in me. One person opened a door. And I've spent my life opening doors for others. Gina blinked, startled. You were a dropout. Indeed. And look how I turned out. He winked playfully. That eased the tension inside her. She laughed, a soft, surprised sound she hadn't heard from herself in days. Jonathan reached across the table, not touching her but offering reassurance in his expression. Gina, I'm not promising magic. I'm promising support. Work hard, stay focused, and I'll help you get where you need to go. Her breath caught. What do I do next? Meet me tomorrow at my office. Bring your school documents. We'll start the process. Tomorrow. Felt sudden. Terrifying. Hopeful. She nodded slowly. I'll come. Good. He stood, adjusting his coat. And Gina, you're stronger than you think. As he walked toward the exit, Gina sat frozen, absorbing everything. The supermarket hum resumed around her. People chatting, trolleys rolling, life continuing. Yet her world had stopped and restarted in a completely new direction. When she finally left the store, the setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. For the first time in a long time, Gina looked up instead of down. Tomorrow wasn't just another day. It was the beginning of a new chapter in her life, one she never dared to dream she'd get to write. The next morning, Gina woke before dawn. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, feeling an excitement that battled with nerves. This could be her chance, but what if it slipped through her fingers? What if it was too good to be true? No, she thought firmly. Jonathan didn't feel like someone who played with people's hopes. His eyes carried sincerity. His tone carried truth. She got up and tiptoed past her father's room. He was asleep, his breathing labored but steady. Guilt pricked her heart. She hadn't told him about school yet, or Jonathan. Not until she was sure it was real. After getting dressed in her neatest clothes, she gathered her documents. Report cards, recommendation letters, her withdrawal notice, which she hated looking at, and her old ID card. She placed them carefully in a folder and whispered a silent prayer. The bus ride to the Hale Foundation office felt like traveling to another world. The building was tall, sleek, glass-walled, nothing like the tired street she came from. She swallowed hard before stepping inside. "Good morning," the receptionist greeted warmly. "Are you here to see Mr. Hale?" Gina nodded, surprised he had informed them. "You're expected." Please go right up. She followed the directions, heart hammering. When she entered the large office, Jonathan stood by the window, sunlight casting a glow around him. Gina. He turned, smiling genuinely. Right on time. I didn't want to be late, she replied shyly. Punctuality is a strength, he said approvingly. Shall we begin? They sat across a long mahogany desk. Jonathan reviewed her documents carefully, his expression thoughtful but never judgmental. You're bright, he said simply. Your grades show commitment, even under difficult circumstances. Gina flushed with pride. We can reinstate you immediately, he continued. The foundation will cover your fees, books, uniforms, everything. But more than that, he folded his hands. I'd like you to join our mentorship program. Leadership training, career guidance, personal development. Sounded like a dream. Too big. Too much. I don't know what to say, she whispered. Say yes, he said gently. Say yes to your future. She exhaled shakily. Yes. Jonathan smiled. Welcome to the Hale Foundation family. Gina's world tilted, not with fear but with possibility. For the first time since her mother's passing, she felt the warmth of hope blooming. Small, fragile, but determined to grow. Tomorrow she would return to school. But she would not be returning the same girl who left. The next morning, Gina stood in front of her school's iron gates, heart thudding like a drum. Students streamed in around her, laughing, chatting, rushing. She clutched her new backpack, courtesy of the foundation, and inhaled deeply. She was back. A week ago, she would have given anything to be standing here again. Now she was, thanks to a stranger who believed in her when she had almost stopped believing in herself. When she stepped inside, many heads turned. Whispers floated around her like drifting leaves. I thought she dropped out. How is she back? Who helped her? She kept walking, shoulders squared. Let them talk. She had earned her right to walk these halls again. Her best friend, Amara, spotted her from across the courtyard. Her eyes widened, then filled with tears as she rushed over. Gina! She wrapped her in a fierce hug. You're back. How? When? What happened? Gina laughed breathlessly. I'll explain everything later. Amara pulled back to look at her properly. You look different. Different how? Stronger. Like you found something you didn't have before. Hope, Gina thought silently. You found hope. Classes resumed, and Gina slipped into her seat as if she had never left. Teachers welcomed her warmly, some with surprise, others with silent understanding. She focused harder than ever, writing faster, listening deeper, pushing herself. This wasn't just school anymore. It was her second chance. At lunch, the head teacher called her to the office. Gina, he began, clearing his throat. I was informed about your reinstatement. The Hale Foundation is an honorable organization. You're fortunate. I know, sir. His eyes softened slightly. Make good use of this opportunity. Students like you inspire others. She nodded. I will. Leaving the office, she felt something shift. Not just in how others saw her but in how she saw herself. At the end of the day, she visited her father at home. He sat by the window, coughing lightly. You're home early, he said gently. Gina swallowed. Dad. There's something I need to tell you. She explained everything, the dropout, the supermarket, Jonathan, the scholarship. Her father stared quietly. Then tears filled his tired eyes. My daughter, he whispered. Your mother would be so proud. She knelt beside him, holding his hand. For the first time in a long while, their home felt lighter. And Gina felt firmly, undeniably, back where she belonged. Returning to school was only the first step. Jonathan's mentorship program began soon after, and Gina found herself stepping into a world she never imagined. Seminars, workshops, leadership clubs, study groups. The foundation wasn't just paying fees. It was actively shaping her future. Each Saturday, Gina attended a youth development class at the foundation headquarters. There she met other students from tough backgrounds, Bright, resilient, determined. They bonded quickly, their shared struggles forging instant friendship. One mentor, Miss Layla, stood out. Confident and warm, she guided them through personal development lessons that felt like therapy mixed with empowerment. Your circumstances do not define your destination, she told them. Your choices do. Gina wrote the words down in her notebook, circling them 3 times. Still, the climb wasn't easy. Balancing school, mentorship sessions, and caring for her sick father drained her. Some nights she fell asleep over her textbooks. Some mornings she woke before dawn to prepare both breakfast and her father's medication schedule. Jonathan noticed the dark circles under her eyes. "Are you managing at home?" he asked one afternoon. Gina hesitated. "I'm trying. I can arrange assistance," he offered. "A nurse to check on your father, someone to help with household tasks." She shook her head quickly. "No, sir. I don't want to depend too much." Jonathan's voice softened. Independence doesn't mean rejecting help. Sometimes strength is accepting support. His words stayed with her long after she left. Weeks turned into months, and Gina transformed. Her grades soared. Case test. Teachers began using her essays as examples. Amara cheered her on. Her father's health stabilized with improved care, and Gina allowed herself small smiles more often. But not everything was perfect. Jealous whispers circulated. "She thinks she's better than us because she has sponsors. She got lucky. That's all." Gina ignored them mostly, but sometimes late at night their words stung. One evening at a mentorship session, Miss Layla noticed her quietness. "Talk to me," Gina sighed. "Some students think I didn't earn this." Miss Layla leaned forward. "Gina, your journey is proof of your worth. People talk when they don't understand your strength." Gina exhaled slowly. "I just want to succeed." "You will," Miss Layla assured. "You've already begun the climb." And as Gina left the foundation building that night, she looked up at the sky. Clear, star-filled, limitless. Just like her future. By the time Gina entered her final year of secondary school, she was no longer the timid girl who once walked out in tears, believing her future had ended. She had become a leader, chosen as class representative, trusted by teachers, and respected by many students. Many but not all. One afternoon, a group of students confronted her near the school gate. "So, Miss Hale Foundation," one sneered. "Are you going to lead us like you're better than everyone?" Gina kept her tone calm. "I'm not better than anyone. I'm just doing my best." "Your best comes with free school fees," another muttered. Gina could have walked away, but she chose differently. "My best also comes from years of struggle," she said steadily. "Losing my mother. Taking care of my sick father. Working harder than you'll ever know. If I have an opportunity, it's because someone believed in me. And instead of being bitter, maybe you should believe in yourself too." Silence. Even the wind seemed to pause. Finally, the group broke apart, muttering but quieter this time. Gina walked away, her heart pounding but her back straight. She had found her voice. At the foundation office, Jonathan listened to the story with a thoughtful expression. "That," he said, "is leadership." Gina smiled shyly. "I just said what needed to be said. And that's why you'll go far." But challenges kept coming. Her father's health took a sudden dip one weekend, sending him to the hospital. Gina stayed by his bedside, holding his hand, telling him stories from school. When he smiled weakly, she felt courage returning. She studied in the hospital corridors, used the dim lights to revise her notes, and attended mentorship sessions through video calls. She refused to let any setbacks steal her progress. Her teachers noticed her determination. Her classmates admired her resilience. Even those who once whispered envy began to respect her quiet strength. As exams approached, Gina pushed harder than ever. She prayed each morning, studied each night, and reminded herself of how far she had come. One evening as she sat reviewing her books, her father whispered, "Gina, you are my miracle." She blinked back tears. "No, Dad. You're mine." And as she walked to school the next morning, the sunrise seemed brighter than usual, as though the world itself was rooting for her. Her story was no longer just about survival. It was about rising. The school hall buzzed with anxious energy. Students sat in tight clusters, waiting for the announcement of final exam results. Gina sat between Amara and two foundation ments, her palms sweaty. "Whatever happens," Amara whispered, gripping her hand, "you've already won." Gina smiled, though her stomach churned. She had worked too hard to fail, but fear still lurked beneath her ribs. The head teacher stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand. "Good afternoon, students. Today we celebrate excellence." The room fell silent. "As always, we honor the top performers," he continued. "This year, our overall best student is..." Gina held her breath. "Gina Okoye." The hall erupted. Amara screamed. Students clapped. Teachers nodded proudly. Gina sat frozen for a second, unable to process the words. Then tears flooded her eyes. Her feet moved on their own as she walked to the stage. The applause washed over her like warm rain. When she reached the microphone, she trembled, not with fear but with gratitude. "Thank you," she began softly. "A year ago, I thought my life was over. I dropped out because my family couldn't afford school fees. I lost hope." She glanced at Jonathan in the audience. He smiled, eyes shining. "But then, someone believed in me. And because of that, I learned to believe in myself." Her voice steadied. "If you are struggling today, I want you to remember, once there is life, there is hope. Your story can change in a single day." The crowd cheered. After the ceremony, Jonathan approached her. "I'm proud of you, Gina." "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything." He shook his head. "You did the work. I simply opened a door." A representative from the National Scholars Board stepped forward. "Miss Okoye, congratulations. You've qualified for a full university scholarship." Gina gasped. "University? Fully funded," the woman confirmed. "Your journey is just beginning." Gina turned to her father, who stood supported by a nurse. Tears streamed down his face. "My daughter," he whispered, voice breaking, "you've made my life complete." She embraced him gently. In that moment, surrounded by love, possibility, and triumph, Gina understood something powerful. Her story wasn't about luck. It wasn't about rescue. It was about resilience, faith, and the beauty of holding on when everything says to let go. Things truly can turn around in a day. And for Gina, they had turned into a future brighter than she ever imagined.